first reading this morning comes from Matthew. To the leaders, Jesus said, "What can I say about the people of this time? What are they like? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and saying to each other, 'We played music for you, but you did not dance. And we sang a sad song, but you did not cry.' When John came along and did not eat or drink like other people, they said, 'He has a demon in him.' Then I came along, eating and drinking, and people said, 'Jesus eats too much, drinks too much wine, and is a friend of tax collectors and sinners.' But wisdom is proved to be right by what she does." Jesus prayed to God, saying, "You have hidden these things from people who are wise and smart, but have shown them to those who are like little children." And then Jesus said to the leaders, "Come to me, all of you who are tired and have heavy loads to carry. I will give you rest. Accept my teachings and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find rest for your lives. The burden that I ask you to accept is easy. The load I will give you to carry is light." And our second reading is from Romans. "I want to do what is right, but sometimes I can't seem to do it. I want to do what is good, but often I can't seem to do that either. I don't want wrong things, but sometimes I do them anyway. So I have discovered this principle of life, that what I want to do is right, what is right. I often do what is wrong. And although I love God's law with all my heart, there is another power at work within me that sometimes seems to be at war with my mind. At times I am a miserable person. Who can free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? The answer is found in Jesus Christ. And Jesus acted to set things right in this life of contradictions, where I want to serve God with all my heart and mind, but am pulled by another influence to do something totally different."
We're going to see a little video now, and it will sort of be like our modern reading. But I need to give you some context around it. So most of you know that my full-time plus work is with AIDS Interfaith Network, and each year we do an event called the Bloom and Ball Sowing Seeds of Hope. And one thing that we do in that event, we ask some of our clients, and it's usually 5 of them, to let us film them. And we have a videographer who donates his time, and he does this beautiful video for us. And it's different each year because there's usually a sub-theme that we're putting forth, and it's different, usually different ones of our people that we serve who are in the video. So in the song you heard at the very beginning of the service, Proud, we used that song and that theme in our event this year as well. And one of the questions we ask of the people that you're going to see now in this video is, in the end, the last things that they will respond to is part of, what is it that makes you feel proud? And so I just wanted to give you that context so that maybe the video would make a little more sense to you in that context. So let's hear it from them in their own words now.
Hi, my name is Fred Collins. I was introduced to AIN through my case management worker in 2003.
Hi, my name is Diane Simster. I've been with AIN about 10, 11 years.
My name is Gerald Askew. I've been a client of AIN for 1 year and a half.
My name is Ralph Lucas. I've been a client of AIN for going on about 3 years now.
My name is Rosa Carballo, so it's going to be 6 years now. It's a regular life because I don't know I have the HIV.
I was pretty much walking everywhere to get to things that I had to get to, like the doctor's appointments and stuff like that.
Well, I was looking for resources and trying to be as discreet as I could when I looked for them, and someone referred me to AIN, And once I got there, I was well received.
It was very complex. I was diagnosed with peripheral neuropathy, which made it difficult for me to walk. And I had several appointments. And getting to and from one place to another was difficult. And it really put a strain on me emotionally and physically.
I have something to do now. People to go and see and someone to talk to motivate me and keep me going. Because people down you, you know, when you have this sickness, you know, don't want to be around you. So I can go around people that loves me.
Oh, I had support. I had somebody that was willing to show me the resources that were in Dallas, how to get around Dallas, and it made things better for me, especially for transportation.
It was like finding a best friend to help you, to help me. It really picked me up and made me a better person.
It changed a lot because it got me where I could get to where I wanted to go for my appointments and things, where I didn't have to worry about trying to figure out how to get there or who to call to come pick me up and stuff. I just called them 3 days in advance, and then they pick me up at the time I tell them to pick me up.
Oh, it's changed a lot because first, the people working and volunteers out there are very nice for me. And I feel great because I feel a correct place is understand my situation.
I'm personally proud of that there's someone out there that loves us who are sick like this.
Well, I'm personally proud of the things about my going on to continue my education, finding better housing, not living in an area that's not beneficial or healthy for me. Just proud to be out in the world and living.
The professionalism that AIN shares, but not only the professionalism, the courtesy, the kindness, and the genuine support that they give to their clients.
And AIN gave me something to do, and I really love them and enjoy them for having this program for us who's sick.
Because it makes me feel that I am a proud person to even be alive, to be in a situation where I can look for better days, brighter days, and a happier future.
I'm proud of being alive today.
I am proud porque ya me siento mejor, mis defensas están muy altas, me siento muy bien, muy saludable, me siento feliz y estoy muy orgullosa de mí misma.
I am proud to be a client of AIN because it proves that, you know, together with the help of people working together, you know, it works, and there are success stories, and I am the success story.
This is a very nice organization, the best in Dallas.
We don't script for them what to say, and I don't pay them to say it either. It always touches me. Were they who you expected you might see in a video like this? It's just my privilege to serve the clients we serve. And there are many people in the world that still believe that HIV/AIDS is not their issue and that it will never touch them. And there are still many who draw a line between us, those who don't have HIV/AIDS, and them, who do have it. And our clients often feel the effect of being on one side of that line and see that line. And we chose these 5 people for many reasons. And I hope that one of the big things that came through to you out of that video is that these people are just people like you and me. They're people who find the courage to live their lives fully while they are embracing their diagnosis of HIV/AIDS. And each one of them has found a way to confront the challenges of his or her life. And they are each people who live with gratitude. And by that I don't mean that we're asking them to say thank you to us, but they are people of real gratitude, and gratitude for learning to live with this disease and overcome its effect on their lives, effects, multiple, and gratitude for having life itself. And if you notice, they all said something that's hugely important to all of us. In various ways, they said, I am proud to be alive. I am proud to be able to live. I'm proud for still being alive. And if you notice the age of many of these folks, some of them have lived with HIV for a long time. And that's another statement I hope the video made to you. And that at the age that some of them are in life, and the range was from about the late 30s to mid-60s. And women, I mean, their HIV/AIDS is the challenge, but their expressions, the grace and the love that with which they live their lives, is something that inspires us and teaches us if we let it. And I'm privileged to let it each day, and I'm happy to do that. You know, in our world, there are many lines that are drawn between us and other people. And those of us in this congregation who are lesbian or gay or bisexual or transgender and questioning queer, intersex, asexual, or allies, our list has grown. All of us know this line. And we know the lines between us and them pretty well. And you know, sometimes we're the ones drawing the line. You know? Many of us have struggled with or struggle with feeling different from other people. And those feelings are magnified when we feel that we are separate from, or that we have been separated from others or by others. And it was the same for these 5 people. As I talked to them, and some of them I know for many years, they often find themselves on a side of that line and really feel where that line has been drawn. But what do we do with that? What do we do with these lines that do get drawn between us? What do we do when we find ourselves there on one side or the other? What is it that helps us rise above that circumstance or above those feelings even? And what helps us to be better people that can be more loving and caring and more forgiving of ourselves and other people as it relates to these lines? And what helps us not to become so caught up in our own lives and circumstances and the questions that surround those, and that we just become immobilized with them, so we stay on whichever side of the line? You know, our Romans scripture that we read earlier said, I want to do what is right, but sometimes I can't seem to do that. I want to do what's good, but sometimes I can't seem to do that either. I don't want to do wrong things, but sometimes I do them anyway. So I've discovered this principle in life, that when I want to do what is right, I often do what is wrong. And though I love God's law with all my heart, there's another power at work within me sometimes that seems to be at war with my mind. Now, this classic passage really explores grace and sanctification, but Paul here reflects on a human condition that I think affects every one of us. And this is that tug of war, that feeling pulled back and forth sometimes across a line, and that goes on with all of us. Sometimes we care deeply about something. Sometimes we want to do something, or we want to reach out to someone or something, but there is this something that gets in the way. And we get stuck, and we just sort of, feel this pull back and forth. We believe something strongly, but can we do the action that we need to do or want to do and follow up with that action? Or are we feeling one way about it and doing totally the opposite way about it? Here's an example, I think, from my life and journey. I answered the phone one day. It was in my office at what was originally MCC Dallas many, many years ago. And there was a hospital representative calling to ask me to make a pastoral visit to a new patient. So there's all this urgency in her voice, and so I went immediately, and when I arrived, he was in an isolation room. Now, none of the staff there that day, the hospital staff, seemed to be able to tell me what was going on, and their fear was obvious on everyone's faces. And there were all these warning signs posted all around us on the doors and the walls leading into this place, and there were these signs, and to go in, you first had to put on masks and gowns and gloves and all this gear, and you had to go into an anteroom and then into the room itself. And it became clear to me right off that the young man on that bed had this new disease that was terrifying to everyone else, because no one at that time, including me, no one knew what was causing it or how it was spread. And until then, we had only heard of this, and I knew of it, on East Coast and West Coast, New York, LA, San Francisco, and I knew people there with it, but this was different. This was HIV and AIDS, and here it was now in Dallas. And that was the moment. And we were there, I was there, with someone that I could see and touch and feel and smell. And it was a moment of truth for all of us. Now, that hospital was Parkland, and this incident was over 30 years ago. Have you ever been to an isolation room? To get a description, it's physically separated from the other rooms. You go down a hall, and then all of a sudden it's noted, and then there is this room you go into, and then you do all this gear, and then you go into yet another internal room. It's separated from all the other rooms, and there's different air and system and lots of precautions. And on that day, beyond the way this room was physically separated, there was another line that separated it. And that line might have been invisible to some there that day, but it was visible to me and fully recognizable to me. And that was the line between someone who had this new disease called HIV and AIDS and the other people there who didn't have it. It was a line. And it was the line between fear and courage. It was the line between judgment and compassion. It was the line between suffering and giving care. It was a line between stigma and our shared humanity. It was the line between despair and hope, a line between, ultimately, hate and love. And for that young man on that bed that day, it was also the line between life and death. And at that part of time in the history of HIV/AIDS and in our history, those were just some of the lines that were separating us and them, our community and that, people with HIV and AIDS and everyone else. And on that day, everyone there had a decision to make. Would they cross the line? I had a decision to make. Would I cross that line? Like so many people before and after him, this young man died. And that repeated itself literally thousands of times. But he was not alone, because ultimately the staff there at that hospital learned, and they took care of him. I was with him, and God was with him and me and all of us. He wasn't alone, and neither were we. It was the beginning of HIV/AIDS in Dallas. It was the beginning of my work in HIV/AIDS. And that was then, which was over 30 years ago. So, what about now? What about today? Just as we asked the people you saw in this video, what have you done that today makes you feel proud? I asked myself that same question. And you know, the first answer to that is, I am proud to have crossed that line on that day. Because crossing the lines then has made it possible for me and others to cross it every day since then. Recently, I saw one of our clients at the Dare Center, and I had not seen him for a few weeks. He's usually a fairly quiet person. He's very friendly spirit about him. He's easygoing. He's been diagnosed for many years. But HIV causes his health to roller coaster up and down very unpredictably, and it's difficult for him to plan anything. We never know when we're going to see him because of that. But he always seems to take his circumstances in stride. And we talked for a minute. I asked him how he was doing, and he said, you know, I've been sick, but today I'm better, and I'm happy to be here. And when I welcomed him, he said, I'm so proud that you guys are here. He reached out to hug me, and tears fell from his eyes, and I choked and said, I'm glad you're here. And then he said words to me that I still hear in the back of my head. And he said, I come here to live. Now, something I know about him is that he lives in a household with people who help take care of him, but they don't necessarily care for him or about him, who he is and who he will be. And there's a big difference in those two things. That's one of those lines that gets drawn between people, you know. On the one hand, who may really know that they should care, but on the other, can't do that in a way that says to him, I know you care about me, because that's not how it comes across. He comes here, or comes to AIN, to be with people in a place where he feels accepted and respected and loved, and to be with people who care about him. He comes there so he knows he's not alone and he doesn't have to be afraid, and to experience how it feels not to be separated from other people and not to see that line. And you know what? Today, this is the new line between life and death. He said, I come here to live, and we respond by erasing that line. Here are some of the lines that we're still crossing today, or trying to. And many of you are on this journey with me and many, many others. We are still working for justice. We are still working to end the spread of HIV. We are still working to end the stigma and marginalization, and we are still working to overcome hate with love. And we're still working to try to help people live as long and as well and with as much grace as they can. And we are still working to erase the lines that are drawn between all of us. This is work that we all must do. And not only in HIV and AIDS, but in all parts of our world. And in the parts of our lives, both individually and collectively. Now, currently, there's something going on that is another kind of example about this. And the whole country is in this tug of war with our national identity, our national spirit, and our national conscience when it comes to these tens of thousands of immigrant children being held at the southern borders of the United States. For them, there is a line that is drawn between abuse and safety, between terror and peace, between life and death. And I don't think there's probably anyone in this country who does not care about this issue and at some level care about these children. And probably most would agree that they need safety and love and care and protection and life and the ability to grow up not pulled into the kinds of lives they've come from. And yet, where are we? We're stuck between something that most of the country feels something needs to be done, but we're stuck on a line, either not willing to do it, not agreeing what to do, not thinking we can do, or not doing, just not doing it, immobilized by the way that we feel about it. It doesn't matter where you or I come down, which side of this we come down on, and I'm not going to say you have to do it one side or another. But I'm saying this is one of those things that Paul wrote about in the Roman scripture. I do the things, I know some things I want to do, I feel that they're the right things to do, but sometimes I can't do them. And I feel like there is a force internally that sometimes pulls me back and forth, or that is at war between my heart and my head about what to do. And so many times we just then don't do. So how do we reconcile that? How do we change the differences between what we believe we should do or want to do and then what we actually do? Well, I do really believe that most of us want to meet the challenges that we encounter and that we want to do the right thing or the best thing about it. And I accept the fact that these lines do exist between us. They're there. But I also accept the fact that we all need to cross them some way. And that internal struggle is going to be there within us at times. But we have to start somewhere. We need motivation and courage and hope. And we need God's help. And if you heard the gospel lesson today, Jesus invited us to consider a new way, a different way to do things. And he said, "Come to me, all of you who are tired and have heavy loads to carry, and I will give you rest. Accept my teachings and learn from me, because I'm gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find rest for your lives. The burden I ask you to accept is easy, and the load I give you to carry is light." So how do we cross the lines that separate us? We start by realizing that we share this world with all the other people in it. And whether we're people with HIV/AIDS or the immigrant children from Central or South America or you or me, we start by accepting the love of God and God's inclusion of all of us, by acknowledging God's Spirit that is alive in each of us to accompany us and to help us, and by following these real teachings of Jesus, by trusting God to help us take the actions that we need to take, by helping us reconcile what we do with what we believe we should do, and then by doing it, becoming Christ in this world. And in that way, in the way that Jesus offers us, that's where we find our faith. And our faith is the beginning of this journey, not the end of it. And what Jesus promised here is not a vacation or an escape from our lives or the magnitude of things, but it's just rather a different way of engaging life. And Jesus acknowledges here that there is yoke, there is burden in our lives, and there's work to be done, and there is burden in that work, but that we need to do the work together, and that the work really is about making a way to achieve justice, to show love for God and neighbor, and to bear the work that we must do with patience and kindness and grace and love. That's the way of Christ. That is what Jesus was teaching us, and that's the way of our faith. And our faith, if we allow it, helps us to be better people than we would otherwise be, to do things we don't always think we can do. It empowers us then to cross whatever the line is that's separating us, to give us than what we need to cross that line or those lines. It helps us to do the work that we might not otherwise choose or opt to do. And it is by following this way that we can make a difference in our own lives, in the lives of others. And what does that do? It changes the world. It makes a difference in the world. I don't know how we will cross the lines in the crisis of the immigrant children, but here are some things that I do know about how we're crossing the lines for people living with HIV/AIDS. Did you know that today, Parkland, we were celebrating Parkland in the event that we did, and today Parkland provides medical treatment and care to over 6,000 people with HIV/AIDS each year. Today, AIDS Interfaith, we serve over 2,000 people living with HIV/AIDS, and over 1,800 of them receive their treatment and care at Parkland. AIDS Interfaith today, we reach over 10,000 people who are at risk of HIV infection to give HIV prevention education and help them to be tested and know their status. And when people ask me, well, how do you know that any of that, what you're doing makes a difference? Well, here's how I know that. We saw a video, and those clients said that they are proud to be able to live. And those people were saying, we are proud to be alive. And they didn't get there. They had to ask for help, which is hard to do. And they needed something from other people. They needed something from us and sometimes multiple organizations. But they took it and used it, and now they're proud to be alive. In AIDS Interfaith, some of the things we do that help that to happen. And some of you have been there, and you have volunteered and helped serve people food at Saturday Night Live at the Dare Center. We serve breakfast and lunch every day, and this is nutrition that everyone needs nutrition. Everyone needs food. But our clients take it, and it's parallel to taking your treatment, your medications. And you can't take them without eating as well. They can even work against you. You have to have nutrition to parallel them. But that's what helps people to have better health. We provide transportation, and what that does is it makes it possible for people, and you heard some of them say that, I can get to where I need to go. Trust me, none of it comes to you. Not in Dallas, not in the geography as big as this is. 13 counties in North Texas, you can imagine. And you have to be able to get there. So we do that, and they can link onto that, and that's everything from reaching medical treatment and care to social services to counseling to food, the kinds of things they need to make their lives and circumstances different. And then with Parkland, our medical partner, they provide the medical treatment and care that treat illnesses and provide the medications, and people can be in service there whether or not they can directly pay, and they don't have to worry that that's going to come to an end. It's a clinic system, and they can get their care there indefinitely. And at this time in the history of HIV and AIDS, our clients are living longer, and they're maintaining better levels of health, and they are having better quality of life. And by doing this work together, and AIDS Interfaith and Parkland are just two examples of how people and organizations work together. But by doing it together, we're erasing those lines every day so that people like the ones you saw in this video could be out and open about their diagnosis, and that teaches other people to do the same. And it erases the line. If you looked at them, there wasn't one of them that you could look at and say, oh, that person's ill, or that person has HIV. There wasn't anything about them that would say that. In our theological position at AIDS Interfaith, here's just a little piece of it that I always lean on. We believe that HIV/AIDS is part of the human condition in which we all participate. AIDS is not God's punishment for any reason or any behavior. There is no litmus test to qualify for compassion. Illness represents an opportunity for love, mercy, and compassion to be present through the lives of friends, families, neighbors, and caregivers. We all share a supreme connection to one another in our living and dying, which binds us to one another in a fellowship of healing and hope. Guess what, folks? You and I are the friends, families, neighbors, and caregivers. And not just in this instance with HIV, AIDS, or AIDS interfaith, but with each other and with our community, with your families, friends, and the people in your lives. We are all on that journey. We are all involved in that faith, and we are all connected to one another, and what we do affects each other. And this is how at AIDS Interfaith we align the statement of what we believe with what we are doing. And every day I ask myself and our staff to cross those lines and help erase them. And for me, it's really the work of Christ in this world, because we are crossing the lines between inclusion, service, justice, compassion, and love. And for all of us, it begins as it did on that day at Parkland with me many years ago. We must cross lines that affirm life, and we must cross lines that help create opportunities for new life, establishing a new line between life and death. Let the words of Jesus reach you so that you are not afraid. And let the examples that are all around you, let them teach you, teach all of us. And let the words of our clients always inspire you. I am proud to be able to live. I come here to live. Embrace the God who embraces you and me. And as you embrace your faith, embrace the internal questions and make peace with them. And then do with your lives those actions that align with what you believe and what you really want to do, and do them. And in so doing, that will empower you to answer the question before you, what will you do that today makes you feel proud? Amen.